Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a deep, systemic frustration that millions of people are feeling right now. You know the feeling. You work hard, you put in the hours, maybe you even snag that promotion, yet somehow accumulating real savings feels completely out of reach. If you've been wondering why financial stability seems to be fading despite your absolute best efforts, I promise you, you are not alone. We're going to break down exactly what is happening using the data, and by the end of this explainer, you'll see exactly why our modern economy is wired the way it is. Let's get into it. Listen to this quote because it perfectly captures our reality right now. The idea that Americans are careless with money is one of the biggest misunderstandings in modern economics. We've all heard the standard advice, right? That a lack of savings is just a symptom of bad spending habits. We're told, hey, stop buying so much avocado toast, or just make your coffee at home and suddenly you'll be handed the keys to a 4-bedroom house. But the source material we're looking at today completely dismantles that myth. Millions of people in the United States work full-time jobs. They follow incredibly strict budgets. They totally avoid luxury lifestyles, and yet they still struggle to save even a few $100s.
Section 1. The Great Savings Myth.
Okay, let's dive into this. Let's walk through the vicious cycle that keeps so many people financially fragile. Your income hits your bank account, but almost instantly, bills just consume it. Then life happens. Maybe your car needs a surprise $400 repair, or an unexpected medical bill arrives in the mail. Because your cash was already claimed by basic living expenses, debt steps in to fill that gap. And once you have debt, those interest payments increase your monthly expenses going forward. That leads us right to the final step. Savings literally become mathematically impossible. It's just a continuous loop that keeps hardworking people trapped living paycheck to paycheck.
Section 2. When costs outpace incomes.
The absolute undeniable math problem here is the massive gap between expenses and earnings. Notice how the skyrocketing costs of housing and healthcare just completely dwarf stagnant wages. Everything has simply become more expensive, way faster than incomes have actually increased. Over the last few decades, things like education, childcare, insurance, and food have all skyrocketed, but wages? They haven't even come close to keeping pace. Inflation silently destroys your purchasing power. To put that into perspective, a person making $70,000 today might actually feel poorer than someone making $45,000 20 years ago, simply because modern expenses are eating up a vastly larger percentage of that income. And speaking of modern expenses, housing is the ultimate heavyweight. For a huge number of Americans, rent or mortgage payments are eating up 30 to 50% of their monthly income right off the top. When a basic one-bedroom apartment demands half your paycheck the literal moment you get paid, the very concept of savings disappears almost immediately. In large cities, rent prices are just overwhelming, while property taxes and utility bills keep climbing. For younger generations trying to get a foothold, home ownership is starting to feel completely impossible.
When we contrast past generations with modern Americans, it is night and day. Past generations could often buy a home in their 20s. That allowed them to build early wealth and plan their families with way less financial stress. But today, soaring prices force people to rent much, much longer. And that directly leads to delayed marriage, postponed children, and ultimately significantly less wealth accumulation. These delayed life milestones aren't because of a lack of ambition or work ethic, not at all. They are a direct mathematical result of an incredibly expensive housing market.
Section 3. The endless debt cycle. Credit card debt has basically become the ultimate illusion of affordability. People aren't just swiping for luxury vacations to Europe anymore. They're using credit to pay for groceries, gas, medical bills, and just everyday survival. But those high interest rates, late fees, and minimum payments are quietly drowning consumers. Instead of saving money, your future income is already being handed over to banks just to cover the cost of surviving today. So many people are financially drowning quietly, right behind what looks like a totally normal, everyday lifestyle. And, before many young adults even open their first credit card, they're already chained to tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in student debt. College education in America has become just astronomically expensive. Starting your adult life carrying this kind of burden completely robs you of the most critical wealth-building years of your life. Instead of using their 20s to save, invest, buy a home, or plan for retirement, millions of Americans have to spend decades just trying to pay off the cost of their education. Now, what's really interesting here is how our entire consumer culture has shifted to normalize borrowing for absolutely everything. Welcome to the buy now, pay later era. We aren't just financing cars anymore. People are financing phones, furniture, electronics, and, incredibly, even their grocery delivery. No way, right? But it's happening. What this creates is a lifestyle composed entirely of monthly payments. It means your income is entirely pre-committed before payday even arrives, and the more monthly payments you juggle, the harder saving becomes. Adding immense anxiety to this trap is the sheer weight of healthcare. Between sky-high deductibles, rising copays, expensive prescriptions, and the absolute dread of a surprise medical bill, even fully insured families are incredibly vulnerable. America has one of the most expensive healthcare systems in the world. One single medical emergency can completely wipe out years of hard-earned savings. Because of this, a lot of Americans don't keep money liquid to build wealth. They keep it liquid out of pure survival fear. Section 4. The culture of consumption. Let's talk about the modern microspending trap. Food delivery, convenience apps, ride-sharing, and paying for like 4 different streaming services just to watch that one specific show you actually like. Individually, spending 10 or 15 bucks here and there rarely feels dangerous in the moment. But modern convenience is expensive. Collectively, these recurring cuts silently bleed accounts dry, draining thousands of dollars annually. It's a system perfectly designed to siphon away any potential savings through sheer convenience. And all of that leads to a pretty jarring number: $0. This is often the amount of wealth accumulated when lifestyle inflation takes over. We're psychologically conditioned by advertising and social media, platforms like Instagram and TikTok, to believe that expensive equals success. So what happens when someone's income finally rises? Their spending rises right alongside it. Instead of building savings, they upgrade their apartment, buy a nicer car, get a newer phone, and change their dining habits. The result? A higher income for sure, but absolutely zero actual wealth accumulation. But you know what the scariest part of this whole shebang is? It's the dangerous illusion of normalcy. Because everyone around us is drowning in car loans, living paycheck to paycheck, and dealing with subscription overload, being financially stressed has actually become completely normalized. When everyone else struggles too, living on the absolute financial edge feels entirely normal rather than, completely alarming. Section 5. Income versus real wealth. And this brilliantly illustrates a really surprising paradox. Even people earning 6 figures are often completely broke. Massive slices of their income go to large mortgages, luxury car payments, private schooling, and higher taxes, leaving only this tiny little sliver for actual savings. Social pressure and the demand to maintain a visible lifestyle just squeeze them completely dry. Without extreme discipline, simply growing your income does not automatically create wealth. So we have to fundamentally separate 2 concepts here: earning money and building wealth. Earning money is just about your salary size, your spending, and your visible lifestyle. Building wealth, on the other hand, is about stability, savings, flexibility, and freedom. A person earning $50,000 who manages to save consistently and avoid lifestyle inflation can actually become much wealthier over time than someone earning $150,000 who spends absolutely everything to keep up appearances. Without savings, even high earners remain dangerously vulnerable. The answer absolutely isn't just some patronizing, "Hey, stop buying coffee." Real financial improvement requires action on 2 fronts. Yes, we need personal shifts, like better financial education, strict control over lifestyle inflation, and prioritized emergency savings. But we also desperately need massive structural shifts. We need wage growth, affordable housing, and true healthcare reform. This crisis is a combination of individual habits and an economic structure that makes simple survival incredibly expensive. Which brings us to a final, provocative thought I want to leave you with. Is our modern economy built for survival, or is it actually built for wealth? The American savings crisis is about so much more than money. It's about extreme psychological exhaustion. Millions are not failing because they refuse to work hard. In fact, many are working harder than ever before. But when the structural reality is increasingly expensive and debt-driven, we really have to ask ourselves who the system is actually working for. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this deep dive helps you view your own financial landscape with a lot more clarity and maybe a little more grace. See you next time.